Hi, friends. Host Eric here. Host of Talking with Famous People. I'm here in the Raw room with host Ken and Courtney, Elsie, exactly. Host Eric, host Ken, and Unified. And we're talking MBTV. We're talking comment chain full of drama on Homie's video where he tried to, shockingly, do something different. Oh no, heaven forbid. And people busted his chops about it. Let's see. No, it's different. I didn't bust his chops about anything. That wasn't me busting chops in any way. That was different. It is different. If you think about it, you'll see why. I don't want to explain it. I'm T.I. and a T. Oh. That's how you use MBTI to get away with shit you don't want to do. Okay, so good trick to keep in mind. Here we have Trey looking sharp in his Volcom shirt with a little lavalier mic right at the throat, and his carefully unkempt hair waving ever so jauntily in the breeze. Let's observe. Pow.
There's a problem with type 6s, and that's that a lot of people think that they're a bunch of pansies. And that's because when it comes to type 6s, they are a bunch of pansies.
Okay, so he's talking trash. Well, talking trash is a complicated art. Let's say that. I mean, watch just a few seconds of it. I fear thus far that he's not doing it very well. But let's see. Give it a little bit more of a chance.
But realistically, the basic definition of a pansy is someone who is weak, and the type 6 is associated with fear. So that may look really weak. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are weak, because it's not like they have tried or struggled to have strength in their situation. It's just that they're afraid of the situation itself, and they're survival in it, which can be seen as weakness. This would cause them to move away from something instead of moving towards it. The type 6 is afraid of death in a sense, but like I said earlier, it's not necessarily a main concern.
Uh huh. Okay, let's go forward a little while and see what happens.
Company or group. The Epidom is going to be more social in a sense, more focused on getting a group together that they can.
Blah 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 blah.
Similar in more social situations than they do like the ESTP would, which would be in totally different scenarios. But the basic idea is that they really do rely on their frameworks more than their extroverted sensing, which makes them look like an ISTP or an ISFP. But they're going to have the same dynamics as extrovert intuition. They can be prepared for it. The same way for the SI users. Want to be prepared. The type 6 SI users.
Well, I don't see what the problem is.
Wikipedia articles. Just take it over the forums. If you have to copy paste.
There was, you skip past it, but there was a point, as I mentioned in the video when he mentions the any dominant type 6s,
so,
at which point he does laugh and say, yeah, try to find it.
It's fine. I get the gist of it. Okay, so who cares? He laughs at the type. He makes fun of him a little bit. It sounds like most of the time he's doing it pretty seriously. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah. He's trying to convey information, and he's trying to give it a little bit of flair, like, trying to have fun with it. But
anybody could have a problem with that.
Right. Trey, your hair is red. Trey, the direction that you swooped your hair is the same direction Hitler swooped his hair, Trey.
Well, I mean, you have to really be in the habit of being coddled to get fussy about that shit. Right? Who's going to get fussy about that? So for the record, for this video, I did add a couple of things to the comment chain there. I guess I'll read them. So Michael Silverstein says, I'm a 6W5 and either an NE aux or an NE dom. Well, I found the way this was handled to be massively unprofessional. Massively. I usually like what you guys produce, but to have any human being mocked or laughed at because of a given type combo, I find incredibly appalling. If you want to be taken seriously for your contributions, I highly suggest not going down the road of laughing at anyone. Seriously, think twice at publishing this type of material if you really want to make a name for yourself in this community. Well, that's very, very scoldy of you, Michael. That is just spectacularly scoldy. And let me say that, Damon, you did a really good job of saying what you got to say to him. And Trey apologized. And I said, oh, Michael. And this is the proper response to you, Michael. Okay, just so you know, this is how you should have been responded to at the outset by everybody. Oh, Michael, the moistness of your puddles is appalling. So you should check the moistening folds of your leaky feelings for sand. Okay? Because I think you got some sand in your vagina, and that's probably the problem. So, thanks for watching. What?
Did you have the vagina bit?
No, I didn't say that in the comment. I just said it right now as a follow-up to my comment.
So, are you ending the video there? You didn't talk about James Fish.
Oh, right. You're right. I'm so foolish. Thank you, host Ken, for being wise.
No problem.
James.
That's what I'm here for.
James Fish is probably just trolling or something. James is very upset. I know you're not a professional yet, so you can be excused for some amateur mistakes. Thanks, James. That's really... I know you're not a professional yet, but you have some interesting things to say regardless. Wow! That is... That's something else, James Fish. It's a shame to have all that content contaminated with poor presentation and lack of consideration for your audience. Any type 6s are naturally going to watch this video in hopes of gaining insight, only to feel mocked and ridiculed for being cursed with it. Aw, this is supposed to be a community for all of us to grow, learn, and appreciate our differences and plights. Not laughed at because we lost the genetic lottery. We're nurtured into being how we are today. Boo! Boo! Well, James Fish, number one, walking around with your phone in hand and a bottle of water, disengaging from the camera for no reason, just looks like you're smug and don't care. Well, I tend to agree. He looks like he's smug, he doesn't care. But, you know, to the extent that that's true, he needs to work on that as a display thing. It's not something to be scolded about, it's just something to be noted. Number two, laughing at people because they're a certain type. Look, I try to be aware of that shit too, in general. But come on. Your lack of empathy. Okay, well, I mean, can't you point out some things about some people that aren't flattering sometimes? Is that okay? Your comment about the forms doesn't mean anything. It's shallow and oozes smugness. Just because he doesn't have FE down, James Fish, you're really harsh on him. Why are you so harsh? I mean, he's trying some different shit out, maybe. Are you... What are you contributing to the conversation? You're contributing a powerful force of dissuasion. And with this righteous indignation, this freaking positioning oneself as the bearer of moral truth But really, you're just talking about individual, subjective, feelings based truth. And my response is the correct one. Meow! For Christ's sakes, fish! SMH stands for shaking my head. Sheesh, wowza, immaculate conception, etc. Why do I say those things? Because I am shocked and dismayed at your shock and dismay. I find your shocking dismay shockfully dismaying.
Here's the thing. He had feelings as a response. He mentions that the video made his blood boil, is how he expressed it, which means, he had negative feelings in regards to the video, then decided to express those feelings, and I can't get on him for that without
He piao wrong. That's not how you piao.
I can't attack that without copping to an amount of hypocrisy myself.
But
that's what I did. Again, I didn't. I may have not gone that far, but I think being conscious that I was entering into a scoldy debate.
But Jesus, he laid on the fucking righteous indignation thick, didn't he?
Here's what I'm trying to parse out. Here's the thing that the thing that I thought initially is that if he is an INFP, it doesn't necessarily relate to just being an INFP, but the idea of operating off of feelings more than logic or internal logic or something like that. The idea is a lot of times, even with some ENTPs or NTPs or stuff like that, even with some thinkers, they have a difficulty separating what they feel and what their logical consistencies are. I mean, you've run up against that with plenty of types where they can't separate losing an argument with them being bad in some way, or them failing in some way, or them being less in some way. They can't just be wrong. It's something I've had an issue with too.
Well, sometimes like tonight, also people don't understand what I'm saying because they're so entrenched in their perspective on things. So, what I was telling Neptune earlier was that I liked the outdoors, like the wilderness, because it provides a environment that's free from symbols for once. I don't have any words or numbers or messages or pictures or shit like that in front of me. It's just actual things. And that this is a bit of a break from the constant meaning making that an intuitive, somebody who has either of the intuitions as the dominant function, is engaged in. So he took exception to that, saying, no, he finds lots of meaning in nature. And he finds nature very symbolically rich, which is non-responsive to what I'm saying and indicative of the fact that he doesn't understand what those words mean because he's so deeply immersed in meaning. He doesn't know what experience is, basically.
You're so in it, you have difficulty meta-ing and getting out of it and switching perspective.
Right. Like he can't understand experience except as a function of the meaning he makes from it. It's impossible for him to conceive of having experiences that are valid and viable because of what they are as experiences only.
So the thing that I mentioned, I wanted to sort of preface that in a way, because I do want you to continue, if you're not too bored. I do want to have you continue reading the stuff, but I wanted to lead in with the idea of the separating emotion from logic, because in the comment chain he mentions how it's not about logical inconsistencies, it's about feeling itself.
Let's see.
I didn't respond, I don't think it this way, but the thing I'm wanting to drive at now is it's about both, always. You can't separate the two because they don't exist in a vacuum, not in an actual interaction.
I was offended, and usually when offended, it's pretty hard to have all bases covered in terms of any fallacies am I committing, which makes it sound as though it's an unreasonable burden to expect, which is so ridiculous. I was offended on behalf of other people and want Trey to learn and grow as much as anyone else in the community. It's a shame when I hear careless language being thrown around. Wow, it must be torture to be that person. To be so soft all the time.
Well,
I don't feel
I think
I
in
feel
some
no
ways,
I feel I that's why I don't get into shit deep because then I start to feel empathy for the person, right? So I don't feel like busting James Fish's chops anymore. I just feel like, oh, you poor motherfucker, how could you possibly be so emotional, emotionally vulnerable all the time for everyone else in the world? That's awful.
yeah, I don't know though. One of the things I think I questioned him about was, I think he responded, um, so he had used the comments several times that he was thinking about the community, and I asked the question. You mentioned that you wrote your response out of respect for you, talking about Trey and the community. I said, out of curiosity, was that something that you went into the situation being concerned about, or did you assume that about yourself after you wrote the response, or during maybe? Um, and what I was trying to drive at is that for myself, when it came to my own personal feelings, I went into the situation thinking about Trey and what Trey means to me. I mentioned that I consider Trey as an ally, so when I saw what seemed to be him being belittled, I wanted to run in because I felt like one of my allies or one of my friends was sort of being attacked in a way. So it was a personal thing, um, for
Well,
me anyway. And the thing I was trying to drive at, I'm not sure if he quite understood what I was asking. Is what I was trying to drive at is, was it really this sort of, it's a concern not about me but about the community. Like I was trying to discern whether or not it
well,
was him just saying that, oh, I'm concerned about the community, but really it's
okay,
his
so
full
he's talking
motivation
about.
was,
There's a couple of possibilities here. On the one hand, he could have genuinely felt the pain of others who would find reading that or experiencing watching that video painful, especially given the fact that it's occurring out of character for the channel. Probably, like it's not normal, right? It's not what the channel has come to make you expect. Somebody getting upset like that around here would be laughed out of the room immediately because, well, what the fuck do you expect, right? Have you watched any of anything? So, uh, there's that, which legitimizes that kind of response. The more you legitimize that response within the context of that channel, which it was legitimized by the, main guys who are customer service oriented. Talking to famous people is not very customer service oriented, and
if you're on good behavior, you can convert to our religion. That's how it is.
yeah, well, as long as you're not on bad behavior consistently, you're all are welcome. Anyway, the point is, um, you know, it, I understand that there are two kinds of ethics. There's the ethics that are in the moment ethics, which are things that have to do with how you feel and what you ought to do right now. So if you see that person is cold and looks to not have a place to stay right now, maybe you go and give them some jackets. If you feel like that person is under siege and needs to be defended, you'll jump to their defense regardless of whether you agree with what they're arguing, maybe. As I've done with INFPs, I'm sorry, ISFPs, whenever I encounter them, I tend to, and they encounter any pushback from anybody about anything, I'll tend to jump to their defense. Um, so those things are issues of moral agency, like you're deciding to err on the side of goodness because your feelings are telling you what's good and what's bad in the moment. But that kind of moral agency can't be put on anybody else. It doesn't survive codification. You can't symbolize it and say, and therefore you need to do X in a similar situation. doesn't work like that. The logic of codified morality is a different one, and it's based on a framework that's as logically consistent as we can make it.
And so I think part of what was difficult for me is I was trying to figure out how to handle the situation, because since we weren't just talking about logical consistencies, but also the fact that we were playing around with the notion of a code of ethics potentially being enforced by somebody,
Well,
that when you mix feelings in with logic, which is what a lot of human interaction is a mixture of both. It's like it makes things sticky, as Taylor would say. It's just things get maybe a bit more moist than we would hope for, and it's kind of
right.
difficult to parse things out.
I mean, the thing is, there's a clear way to distinguish it, and it basically says, what are you talking about right now? If you're talking about either you might be talking about how something made you feel as a way of giving the other person evidence to consider on their own. I watched this and it made me feel bad. Is different than, you should not have done this, mister, and then give reasons as to a normative claim like you shouldn't have done this, and have those reasons ultimately boil down to, this made me feel bad, but you're presenting it as something else. You're presenting it as a normative claim that you shouldn't do
Which was another thing I wanted to talk about. I feel like that entire initial response that he had, and then the response that I had, just the whole, let me frame this in a sort of ethics code or like a logical framework, so like and throw that out there. To me, I think it shows in a lot of ways that for many people, just showing up and saying, watching this video had this certain effect for me and I felt this way, I didn't really appreciate it, just expressing purely that I struggled with this emotionally. For a lot of people, that's not good enough. They don't feel validated in that. They feel like they need to back it up with some sort of, well, this is why you're wrong, and like they got to follow it up with something.
Well, they're looking for justice. They're looking for justice for their bad feelings. But in an instance when you're only complaining about the thing is that it made you feel bad, you may only be entitled to a small amount of justice. I think to the extent they are entitled to a small amount of justice, it would be, you've led me to expect this, something within the range of A through C thus far, and now all of a sudden you bust out with an R, and that's not cool. There may be.
I think he sort of summed it up a bit near the end. He said, the presentation just reminded me of the belligerence I witnessed at school a decade ago when I was a teen. Maybe it pierced me a lot more than I would like to admit, and Trey was unfortunately put in front of that manifested disdain. I think that sums it up in a lot of ways, where it's like built up over time, justice not being met. So you get this trigger, so to speak, coming up, and then just, and you're trying to get all this justice out of what seems like a pretty small situation.
I bet you they delete my comment because it's not very nice. Maybe I'm gonna edit it and make it a little nicer. The vagina comment. Let's see. The other one is fine. It's just sort of like, yeah. It's like free expression is more important. I'm just gonna leave the first sentence.
Well, the one comment you posted, all you said was, "Oh, Michael, the moistness of your puddles is appalling. Check the moistening folds of your."
I've cut out the second sentence. I'm just leaving it as, "Oh, Michael, the moistness of your puddles is appalling."
Okay.
Or maybe I should say the puddliness of your moisture.
One of the things that I think is important about discussing these sort of issues at length is that, I mean, even in this situation, like your case, Eric, you started in sort of in a way guns blazing, and then you're like, well, I don't really want to bust someone's chops now because, now that we're getting into it. It's like it has an effect of, after a while, once you just start talking about the thing.
You get like humanized. They get humanized.
Right. You're able to tap into logic a bit more separately because those
well, because I'm not just having fun with ha 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 silly softies. I feel their humanity, and then it makes me feel bad,
Yeah. One thing I was thinking about is that I notice that in these situations where I'm trying to have due diligence with
Yeah, okay. Hold on. Let
like
me wait. Hold on. Hold on. Michael's replying right now. All right. Hold on.
is
So we are currently making a video about this as I type this reply. I will read your comment. We will cover your side, and you are welcome to join. You're encouraged to join. I'll put the thing here. GTM dot talking with famous people.com. Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, so what he said is TWFP. Even Damon and Trey noticed some validity from what I'm saying. It wasn't completely out of left field. Give them credit for noticing that, and myself credit for not remaining silent. I said, yeah, okay, so we're currently making a video about this as I type this reply.
James Fish responded.
What?
What are you making a video about?
About this comment chain on Enneagram Type 6. I don't know. I tend to err on the side of free expression over moisture. But I get it. What he's saying is, in this instance, I'm not supporting his free expression. Well, I mean, I'm just saying it's awfully scoldy. Are you thinking about how it's going to make Trey feel? Scold him that hard? Maybe you scold him too hard. All right?
You guys are attacking Damon?
No, I'm not attacking Damon at all.
God damn it, Courtney.
With
Courtney,
the fish.
Why have you done this, Courtney?
I did this?
You're just showing up and you're just derailing it by asking all these noob questions. Jesus, Courtney. You could have come in better than this, Courtney. Okay, you know what? Really, it's just this presentation that you're bringing, Courtney. It's just bothering me. Okay, personally, I'm triggered by the fact that you would show up and act this way, Courtney.
Oh, you're calling me knee right now? I must be
I just told James Fish I think he's an ENTP trolling.
He's an INFP.
Because his name's Fish.
Right. Everybody knows that fishes can only be NTPs.
It means it's a bullshit identity.
James Fish. What is it? Trey said Trey actually knows him. I don't know if he knows him in real life, but he's corresponded with him before. And he said that they actually had him do the MBTI instrument, and he got INFP, which kind of sounds a far way off from ENTP.
What's the MBTI instrument?
It's a blunt object. You hit people over the head with it, and based on how they scream, you say that's your type.
Okay, that's done.